don't always notice it right away. It doesn't show up as something obvious. It shows up in how quickly you get tired, in how long you push before you stop, and what feels normal even when it shouldn't. It shows up in the moments you tell yourself, "I'm fine," or "I'll rest later," or just "I need to get through this." And the truth is, most of those responses didn't start with you. They were learned, repeated, practiced long before you even questioned them. I'm your host, Kayrie Jonay, and this is The Weight of Her Story. For most of your life, you probably thought experience lived in memory, in what you remember, in what you can explain, in what you've already processed. But the body keeps a different kind of record. Not in stories, but in patterns. Your body doesn't need you to remember everything in order to remember it. It remembers pace. It remembers pressure. It remembers what was expected of you way before you ever had a choice. And it remembers it differently than anyone else's body could ever do. You can see this clearly when you look at families, not just genetics, but culture. What was considered normal? What was praised? What was ignored? Some families reward endurance. Some reward achievement. Some reward silence. And the body learns early what it needs to do to belong. You might come from a family where pushing through was survival, where exhaustion was expected. So your body learned to stay alert, to stay ready, to keep going even when tired. And that vigilance didn't disappear when you grew up. It stayed in your nervous system. Or maybe you grew up in a household where emotions were unpredictable, where you learned to read the room quickly, to anticipate needs, to adjust yourself before things escalated. Your body learned to stay aware, to stay responsive, to stay on. That hyper-awareness didn't vanish with adulthood. It became your baseline. Some people grew up carrying responsibility early, helping to raise siblings, managing adult emotions, being the strong one. Their body learned efficiency, how to move quickly, how to function without rest, how to deprioritize its own needs. That efficiency often looks like strength until it starts to cost you. The body keeps score of what it had to become, not because it wanted to hold on to the past, but because it learned what worked. You see this play out in family culture around food. Some families use food as comfort. Some use it as control. Some as a reward or as survival. Your body learns early how food fits into safety, connection, or relief. This happens long before you ever thought about nutrition. So when stress shows up in your life, your body doesn't respond logically. It responds familiarly. You see it in beliefs you were taught. Rest is lazy. Hard work means pushing through. Being tired is normal. or everyone feels like this. Those beliefs don't just live in your thoughts. They shape how long you override signals, how much discomfort you're tolerating, how late you wait to listen. The body keeps score of what you were told to ignore, and it adapts accordingly. Two people can grow up in the same family and still carry it differently. One becomes driven and energized by pressure, and another becomes depleted by it. Same house, same parents, same rules, but different imprint. That's because the bodies don't just experience events. They experience meaning. What was safe? What was threatening? What required vigilance? What allowed rest? Those meanings shaped your biology. You see this when adults slow down. Some people soften when life eases. Their body exhales naturally. Others feel uneasy in calm, restless in a sense when it sets in. Stillness feels foreign. Their body learned that calm wasn't reliable, so it stays alert, even when it's no longer necessary. You see it in how people handle success. Some relax into stability. Others feel pressure increases. They don't trust ease. They brace for loss. That bracing isn't pessimism. It's memory. You see it in how people respond to care. Some receive support easily. Others struggle to even accept help. They feel uncomfortable being tended to. They don't know how to rest without earning it. Their body learned early that care was conditional. The body keeps score in rhythm. How quickly you move through life. How much transition you tolerate. How long you can stay in high demand. Some bodies handle constant motion, while others accumulate strain quietly. And that strain doesn't show up immediately. It embeds. You notice it in sleep. Some bodies downshift easily at nighttime. Others stay half alert. They rest, but they don't reset. Their body learned that staying aware was safer than letting go. You notice it in appetite and digestion. Stress doesn't change cravings. It changes tolerance. Some bodies digest well under calm and struggle under pressure. Others lose hunger entirely. That's not willpower. That's history moving through physiology. Over time, these adaptations start to feel like identity. I've always been like this. Or I'm just wired this way. Some say I don't do well with rest. But these aren't personality traits. They're learned responses. And the body keeps score quietly. Not to punish you, not to trap you, but to protect you. To help you survive what it learned that mattered. This is why generic solutions fall short. They don't respect context. They don't honor your history. They don't account for what the body has had to become. Generic solutions assume that everyone started from the same place, but they don't. Some bodies have lived in high demand for decades. Some have carried generational stress. Some have normalized depletion. Some were praised for endurance instead of balance. Those bodies can't be approached in the same way, and they shouldn't be. This is where frustration often shows up. You're doing the right things. You're following the good advice. But your body responds based on what it has learned to carry, not just what you are doing now. This is why progress can feel uneven, and why effort sometimes creates resistance. Why forcing alignment doesn't work. The body isn't stubborn, it's patterned. And this is where it starts to cost you. Not all at once, and not in a way that feels dramatic, but quietly. In the energy you can't or don't get back. In the rest that doesn't restore you. In the habits that feel harder to break than they really should. In the moments where you're doing everything right and still not feeling better. That's not failure. That's accumulation. It's what happens when a body carries too much history without being understood. And for a long time, you might have thought the answers was pushing harder, or being more disciplined, or more consistent, or be more controlled. But control doesn't rewrite the pattern. Understanding does. Nothing about this means you're broken. It means you're specific. Your body learned how to move through the world in a way that kept you functioning. Now it's asking for understanding, not more force. This is where self-judgment starts to loosen. Because once you see how much context your body is carrying, comparison no longer makes sense. You stop asking, why don't you respond like someone else? And you start asking, what shapes your response? This chapter isn't about revisiting the past emotionally. It's about acknowledging that the past already shaped the present biologically. Ignoring that doesn't free you. Understanding it does. When you recognize that your body carries history, you stop fighting responses that were never random. You stop overriding signals that were built for your protection. And you stop expecting alignment to look the same as everyone else's. This is where readiness begins. Not for another plan, but for a different way of seeing yourself. Because once you understand that your body has been carrying all of these emotions and history and learned patterns, you stop trying to force change on top of it. You start working with it. And that's where everything begins to shift. In the next episode, we're not just going to be talking about patterns. We're going to be looking at what happens when you finally respond to them differently. When awareness becomes action. When identity starts to change. and what that actually looks like in a real body, in real life. Take care of yourself today, even if it's in just one small way, because you deserve that much.